Okay. Just want to welcome everybody to the Port Authority's Community Investment Fund Public Information Session. I'm Beth Noonan, and I just introduced and this is Jackie Wellington. We
That's me.
we work with the Port Authority, and we're glad you all could be here. If you have folks who want to see this after the fact, this will, like as you are aware now, it's being recorded and it will be posted to the website. So anyway, nice to see you all today. Just a little bit of background about the Port Community Investment Fund. It was created 16 years ago by the Port Authority. It is funded by rental payments to the Port Authority through a ground lease with the River City Casino. So the funds that go into the Port Authority's Community Investment Fund and are allocated out into the community through grants are not taxpayer dollars. They're actually rental payments on the lease of the property that the port owns. The Port Authority is is managed by a board of commissioners. There's 7 members. We do have a subcommittee, a grants committee of 3 of the board members who do the initial review of the grant applications, and they make recommendations ultimately to the full board. Oop. There we go. Just as a practical matter, and this information is on the website. There's in the application various materials, but these are the focus of the Port Authority as an entity is on economic development and community development in St. Louis County. We have a definition of economic development that is presented here as promoting the development, growth, and retention of long-term diversified business and employment opportunities that equitably generate increased wealth and enhance quality of life for the community's residents, businesses, and institutions. As part of that, there is community development. It's a part of economic development, and it's really focused on ensuring that local communities have the resources and conditions necessary to benefit from the larger scale economic development work that happens. So ultimately, there's a huge range of activities and programs that build community and human capacity, and that are usually implemented through nonprofits. And so that's really what we focus on supporting. Make sure. Okay, there we go. Just want to make sure that there was a question in the chat or a comment in the chat. And if you do have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We'll try and address them towards the end. And that way we'll hopefully get everybody's questions answered. And you can always contact us after the fact. Next, eligibility. The nonprofits must have a 501c3 status, and the entity must be located in or sponsoring a project that primarily serves St. Louis County and its residents. It is the St. Louis County Port Authority. There are many instances where we have supported organizations that are located in the city of St. Louis, but the funding has gone to programs that are directed at county residents or county businesses. So being in the city of St. Louis is not it doesn't end your opportunities, but it does have to be, the private program does have to support county residents or businesses. Additionally, in terms of funding applications, there is both the opportunity for funding that is available for both programmatic funding, so programs that you deliver to the community, as well as for capital projects. So the port does recognize that there are instances in redevelopment that are or opportunities like that will help expand services or create solidify neighborhoods, etc. So construction, that kind of stuff, equipment is part of our eligible projects for the Community Investment Fund. Just in terms of additional FAQs, and by the way, we do have a list of frequently asked questions that is actually on the website at this point. We used to keep it on a document, But it's the FAQs are all listed out in the on the web landing page. This year, the grant awards are capped at $300,000. You are able to have multi-year, as it says, the bond terms for typically are 12 to 24 months. So it can, go over that period of time, but total is $300,000, no matter how long the grant term is. If you do request more, that will be automatically disqualified for being considered for funding. The other thing that we wanted to make sure that everybody is aware of, that has been surprising to some recipients in the past, is the port does have a procurement policy that is applicable to all grantees and all of the purchases paid for with grant funds. And essentially that means that there's a specific procedures that are to be used for the purchase of goods and services. So if you hire someone, the idea is to be able to open it up and to competition. So it's broad. The procurement policy becomes part of your grant agreement, and you are held to be responsible for procuring goods and services consistent with that policy. So we don't want to have anybody surprised. If your organization has already procured goods or services or expects needing to do so prior to when we were talking about entering into the grant agreement, which would be likely the awards will be towards the end of 2026. If that is an issue and you need to talk with us first, please contact us, because we don't want to end up with people who have purchased things that they hope to get reimbursed by the port, and they have not done it correctly, and the funds are not available to pay them. Grantees are reimbursed for expenditures, as I sort of mentioned. Some folks come in thinking that they are going to get a lump sum of funding, that if they get $200,000 or $150,000, they get it all at once. The port actually does reimburse, it's on a reimbursement basis, so you should anticipate expending funds and then being reimbursed for them. Again, as I sort of the previous discussion suggested, there are no retroactive payments for costs incurred prior to the grant agreement. So the grant agreement basically says that. So you cannot, even if you procured it properly, if it's incurred before the grant agreement is signed and you have one, then those funds are not available for funds that are paid before the grant.
I will be providing you some additional examples of the funding priorities. As Beth indicated, the Port Authority has established 5 funding priorities, and each one of them, they fall into economic development or community development, but there are 5 distinct areas that you'll have to identify as part of your application as being the type of priority that your particular project is addressing. The first one that I'll talk about is business retention and expansion. This is a priority that has been around for a long time to help to grow and expand businesses within St. Louis County. And this deals not only with items that the business themselves may need, such as loan products or either some kind of funding mechanism to address gaps in available capital in the marketplace for small businesses, because we all know that small businesses at times have difficulty going to the traditional vendors in order to get capital for their businesses. A second area that would fall within business retention and expansion is workforce development programs. And these are programs that must be targeted towards jobs that are in demand. The port will not fund a workforce program where the applicant cannot identify the source of employment at the end of the program, because that's the key to what we're looking at for this. And then one of the third examples I'll use is the growth of international markets for our businesses. This right now is kind of in a little bit of a gray area because of what's going on, but there are a number of businesses here that have an opportunity to partake of the market providing their goods outside of the country and or importing goods. So that's another area that would be looked at within that funding priority. The next funding priority is really focused on investment and stabilization of neighborhoods. Uh, some of the types of projects that the port has funded are repositioning vacant and or underutilized properties. These are often old retail sites that have been abandoned by their previous users, but they're in a location in a community where if they repurpose that building, it would provide benefits for the surrounding neighborhood. Another one that we have is neighborhood infrastructure improvements. If you're in the process of renovating a building and say you need additional lighting or streetscape kinds of things, those are things that would fall into that category. We also look at planning and feasibility studies. In order for most of these projects to be consistent with a community-led plan, there has to be some degree of planning or feasibility studies to determine whether or not the project that you're looking to undertake will actually provide benefits for the community. We also fund community planning and organization kinds of activities. If you need to do a lot of community engagement to bring the community together to start looking at plans, that is a potentially eligible item. And then neighborhood stabilization is just primarily programs or projects that will address property maintenance issues if they're within the jurisdiction of the programs that you're working with. Okay. One of the other things that would fall under that, if you have programs that focus on seniors and keeping those seniors in their homes, that is also a potentially eligible project. Okay. The third priority is entrepreneurship programs. These are programs that are specifically set up to help the development and expansion of small businesses. These are really focused primarily on underrepresented businesses as well as neighborhood-based businesses. And these could be a range of programs, be they workforce training, whatever kind of program that they may need to address some of the issues that small businesses typically have. One of the things is we're really interested in fostering innovation and development of an ecosystem. So if your project is focused on, say, the sciences and or manufacturing, and there's a system within the community where other organizations are working in that space, that would be something that would be interesting for the port to review as a potential grantee. Real estate development and redevelopment primarily is there are brownfields all over the area, properties that have been contaminated by previous users, like gas stations, laundromats, things like that have a tendency to leave contamination in the soil. So brownfield remediation, redevelopment activities is one of the areas that we look at. We also will look at funding site acquisition and assemblage if it's a part of a larger project that it fits into and you just need to acquire a specific project for that. And then also site preparation work, pre-development costs, architectural engineering costs, demo infrastructure, lights, parking lots, sidewalks, all of those kinds of things can fall into the real estate and redevelopment priority that we have here. And the last priority we have is focused on targeted industry sector support. And this is based on a county and or a regional strategic priority that's out there. Right now, there's a huge focus on advanced manufacturing, ag tech, agricultural technology, as well as biosciences, which is life sciences, and then other tech kinds of things like cybersecurity. So projects that support and help fill in a gap or expand one of those areas would also be considered within this priority. Okay. The port prioritizes programs or projects that increase economic opportunity for historically underserved individuals and or benefit underserved or equally and economically distressed communities. So we're trying to put our dollars where they're most needed. Most of the communities that would fit within this don't have a lot of opportunities to access revenues and resources. So that is one of the overarching primary priorities that the Port Authority has. As far as the schedule is concerned, the announcement that the funding round was open was released on the 22nd of June. All applications have to be received by the Port Authority no later than August the 11th. And there are two timelines that you need to be aware of. If you submit it online, you can submit it up to 11:59 p.m. on August the 11th. However, if you are planning to drop off a hard copy at the port office, it has to be in the office no later than 3:30 p.m. on August the 11th. So there's an earlier time frame if you plan on submitting it directly to the office. Okay, once all of the applications are received, the Port Grants Committee that Beth mentioned, the three-member committee, will review, follow up with the applicants if they have additional questions, and do an evaluation of all of the grant applications late summer going into the fall. And then we anticipate funding decisions to be expected in late 2026. However, I will put a caveat on that. This is our schedule that we have established. However, if we receive a significant number of grant requests like we did last year, then this timeline will probably slip. So instead of probably late summer and fall, it'll be more fall for the review, and the funding decisions may take a little bit longer than the end of the year. So with that, if you have any questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat. We seem to have a question here, Beth. If you would like capital funding and the project is close to completion, can they still apply if they are meeting all of the guidelines of being in St. Louis County and being a nonprofit? You want to respond to that?
Yeah, sure. So maybe. It's a big maybe. I think one of the things that it would be something that, and you're more than welcome to contact me and have that conversation, offline. But I think the bottom line is that if, let's say you did procure everything appropriately there, and that is still not, there's still potential that unexpended dollars or unexpended costs for your project could be reimbursable. But there's sort of that two-pronged thing. You can't be reimbursed for funds that were already expended before you got a grant agreement. So if you don't have a contract in place with the Port Authority, funds that were expended prior to that time are not eligible. So it really becomes, and so if you have a thing that's going to be going into 2028 and you think that you're going to still have potentially costs that are eligible, and we enter into an agreement with you, it is possible that you could comport with all of the port's procurement requirements, and because some of those costs are still outstanding after you enter into the agreement, then you could be reimbursed. But I think we want to be very careful about getting people's expectations up, and that will definitely be. So I'm happy to answer, more specific questions, but as a general rule, the port doesn't reimburse for costs that were incurred prior to a grant agreement, even if you procured everything the way the port requests. So just to be clear about that. Also, too, I want to make sure everybody understands that you do not have to drop off a hard copy.
No.
Everything, we would prefer you do everything online. But we had one organization come to the office late apparently and couldn't turn it in. So we just want to make clear that you can easily put if it's only if you feel you need to drop off a hard copy for some reason, and then you may do that. But otherwise, everything should be able to be done online, and there's no separate expectation. Okay, our program would program costs be eligible. Some resources were used to serve trained city residents. So if they were typically, okay, so the question is, our programs plan to primarily serve St. Louis County residents. Would program costs be eligible if some resources were used to serve and train city residents? So what we have done in the past is the award has been based on the percentage of county residents that you serve. So, I mean, we're not going to, if you're 40% of your program is paid for, it serves county residents, and the other 60%, whatever your request is, we would probably prorate that. So technically, yes, all the money is going towards serving people, but we're subsidizing the cost for the county residents. So hopefully that makes sense. The procurement policy related to how to select a vendor, or is it a list of vendors provided? We must know. It relates to how you select the vendor. So you have there, depending on the cost, and we don't want to get into a big procurement discussion here, but basically it's how you select somebody. Now, I will say this, the Port Authority, the partnership is the entity that sort of provides support on those issues for the Port Authority. They may have already done some procurement, and you can use their list if you would like on certain things. So, but that is up to you. It's all about the selection process. It's not limiting who you can select.
Correct.
Can micro grants be for small business development be given under the entrepreneurship programs? I think that depends. We have had funds go towards a competition where the program was, it creates a little bit of an issue. That gets very difficult because of the procurement requirements. So I think if you can, if you can seek funding for the actual program itself rather than funds to private entities, I think, and for-profit entities, I think that's probably preferred, but it's something we might be able to consider. If expenditures will be reimbursed, how often will we need to apply for reimbursement? Once a month, every 2 weeks? I believe it's every 30 days.
30 days, correct.
Yeah. But I will tell you, there is
Takes longer.
It takes a longer time to be reimbursed. They have up to 60 days. We have up to 60 days because all of the port's payments have to be approved by the port board. And so that does cause delay. So, and a lot of times people have to have the appropriate documentation. So there can be a lag on reimbursement.
Yeah.
Can an
Just
organization
to add to that, Beth, the
Yep.
Port Authority meets once a month
Correct,
to
yeah.
approve invoices.
Yep.
So depending on when your invoice comes in, if it comes in, for example, the week before the board meeting, it probably will not go before the board until the following month. So that's why there can be an extended amount of time in terms of reimbursement.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Beth.
Oh, no, that's okay. And can an organization submit more than one application? You're more than welcome to submit more than one application, but to a certain extent, you got to be careful about competing against yourself.
Right.
So it's a strategic question for you all. All right. We'll go ahead and go on to the next, go on to the application. Hold on for a second here. All right. So the application consists of two parts. One is the first part is the general application. All applicants have to complete it, and then there are certain required attachments that everyone needs to submit. In addition, there is an appendix to each of the application. And that really goes to funding and budgetary primarily information for projects. Appendix 1 is only for construction or capital projects. So you're gonna, if you're looking to get funding to demolish a building that you're gonna redevelop the property on, you need the general application and then Appendix 1. If you are delivering a program for small businesses and entrepreneurship, you're going to do the general application, and then you're going to do Appendix 2, which is the additional information that focuses on programmatic projects only. So you're only going to do one appendix, and it's going to depend on what your project is, whether it's a capital project or if it's a programmatic. So in the application, the first page really is our applicant basics, who you are, your address, who's the contact person, etc. Again, as we said before, you must be a nonprofit, and there is the expectation that the applicant will have a 501c3. And that's primarily because we want to make sure that these are going to nonprofits that have some built-in capacity and have that designation. We also like to have information about whether or not you're a minority or woman-controlled entity. And if you are, it's really if there's 50% or more of the board members are minorities or women or both. And then we also have another question just to confirm that if you have what your procurement status is and whether or not your organization has entered into any contracts for goods or services that you're seeking funding for. And then that really asks you if the answer is yes, and we really do want you to contact us and ask us about that. Again, in the beginning we really want to understand the timing, how long this project is anticipated to take, what your full budget is for what you're requesting, what you're asking for, if it's redevelopment or programmatic, what the total budget is, what your funding request is, where your project is located, or who it's going to serve. So for some folks, you may be located outside of the county, but if it's going to serve the whole county, counts all of the county, then you put all of the districts. But we really would like to understand which district it's going to serve primarily, or whether it's going to be the full all of St. Louis County. Then, as Jackie talked about, we want you to identify what community investment fund priority you believe your organization your program, excuse me, or project falls under. Again, it's business retention, neighborhood economic and community development, entrepreneurship, real estate or community redevelopment, and then targeted industry sector support. It could be more than one, but let us know which one or more you think your project satisfies. We don't want to try and guess and try and figure it out on our own when we want you to tell us what you think the priority is. This is an attachment A, does give you the description and gives you the examples that we showed earlier. So there's a handy reference in the application for those priorities. I mean, that's you, Jackie. Yeah.
Okay, the general application also includes a request for an executive summary for what your project is. And what we're looking for is a brief description of your project and how it fits into your overall organizational goals and objectives. We basically reference this as your elevator pitch. If you were given a short period of time to describe your program and the potential impact of it, then that's what we're looking for. So it's kind of like your all-in-one project description with all of the information here. We're not necessarily looking for information on your history. There's another area for you to include that. but this is more of an executive summary for the specific project. Okay. Also included in the general application in section 4 is a request for additional information. And this information really focuses on your mission, your organizational capacity. This is the area where you can talk about your organization, your history, things like that that you have done. So what we're looking for with this is to make sure that the program that you are requesting funding for aligns with your organizational mission, so that you can show where you have the expertise to do this because it is in line with what you traditionally do. We also want to know what do you do? And this is where your background comes in. And who do you serve? Those are all background items that we'll be looking for, as well as your organizational capacity to take on the program. If you're looking for a program that you need people with certain expertise, we either looking for that expertise on your staff or somewhere in your project description, you're showing where you will obtain it from another partner or some other means. Okay, under the detailed project description, once again, we want to know what is the need that your project or program is serving. So we also want to understand how addressing that need fits in with your organization's overall strategy. As I mentioned, like if you're doing your project and you're looking at having to focus on people that have a certain level of expertise, this may be where your partners come in. We want to know who besides your organization will be involved in implementing the program or the project that you're requesting funding for. And also to make sure that we have an overall impact on other things that are going on within the county and or the region. We are looking for you to identify how your plan or your project or program is consistent or advances an existing community plan, be it in the county, be it your neighborhood plan, or be it a regional plan. So we're looking for context here to make sure that it's providing additional benefits and support for the general community. Also in this section, we talk about outcomes and sustainability. We want to make sure that once your project is done, it has produced quantifiable outcomes for the community or the region. So we want to know what are the nature of your outcomes. If you're doing a workforce program, how many people will you be training? How many of them will get employed? Those kinds of things, which is why we ask for all of those things to be numerized so that we can count those outcomes as it relates to what it is your program is doing. We are also looking for additional investment. We prefer not to have the port be the only source of funding. So we're looking for you to have other partners that provide additional resources. And then what is your methodology for tracking your progress? If you say you're going to train 50 people over the course of a year and you get to year 6, month 6, and you've only done 10, how are you going to be able to track that so that you know when you're falling behind and what adjustments you need to make in order to move your project forward? Project funding, included in the package, there is in Appendix 1 and or 2, there is a project budget. It should be completed per the instructions that are included in there. And just for clarity, we provide a kind of a definition for sustainability. What we're looking for are projects that once you finish what you're doing, how is it going to be maintained over time? If it needs additional resources to do that, we need to understand where those resources are going to come from, or where you anticipate going to look for them, those kinds of things. Also included in that budget, there's a line item for in-kind contributions. So if you have someone who works for you that doesn't get compensated, but you keep track of their time, and it is classified based on the normal employment classifications, then in-kind could be donated goods, people volunteering to do key activities within the organization, those kinds of things. Then, of course, we have the legal stuff because the attorneys always want to make sure that all these assurances and certifications are complete. So we ask for information about utilization of minority contractors. We asked about litigation, whether your organization is or has been involved in any kind of litigation. And then we require you to provide us with your E-Verify certification, which is the program that's there that addresses illegal aliens being in the country. And then at the end of it, we give you a checklist. And I'm not going to go through it. You'll see it once you get the document. But I would strongly suggest that you go through the checklist and make sure that you check off everything on here so that your application is totally complete. When it comes to Appendix 1 or Appendix 2, just indicate which appendix that you're attaching to your document. But we're looking for financial statements. We prefer audited statements, but if they're not, but if they're comprehensive, they were complete, done by a third party, we will review those. Letters of support. We don't want everyone in the community to send us letters of support. We'd like to limit that to no more than 2. And we want them to be individuals that are intimately familiar with your program and can provide some substantive comments with it. As Beth indicated, the 501c3 determination letter is required, as well as information about your board members. Okay, Beth?
One thing I would say too is when we're asking about the letter indicating your 501c3 status, not-for-profit status, that's the letter you receive from the IRS. Occasionally we get folks not sure what they're supposed to be submitting. What we're looking for is your IRS determination letter, not something from the state of Missouri or anything like that. We're looking for the IRS determination letter that was sent to you when you got your 501c3 designation. There was one comment I wanted to make sure. What is the contact information? I'm not sure what that question refers to. If that person's still on, if you want to clarify, what is the contact information? All right. Well, we'll go ahead and proceed. If you want to get a little bit more, I'm not sure. Oh, if we have, okay. Oh, if you want to have an additional conversation, you can contact me. My name and my email is in the application. And it's also going to, I believe, at the end of this application, it's also on the website. So you contact me if you have specific questions.
Yeah. And Beth, looking at the application, the contact person and information is, we have a question about your grant application. Who should we contact?
Yeah.
And that's basically what it is. Don't give us your CEO if that's not the person that's going to be familiar with your proposal that you're submitting. That's the information that we're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. On to Appendix 1. So I'll just talk briefly. Again, the Appendix 1 is intended for redevelopment projects. So it could be new construction, it could be renovation. What we are asking for is how much of the port funds, again, you put this out in the front in the first part of the application, but just for ease of reference, please indicate the amount of funds that you're requesting and what your anticipated use for them that those funds will be. So is it for property acquisition, design, construction, so on and so forth. We do want a project schedule. for your project. If it's a very discrete project, that's one thing. But if you have a construction schedule, you may have land acquisition, you may have approvals, site prep. We want to understand that you know where you are, where we know where you are in the process, and that you've thought through that construction projects process, excuse me. In addition, we asked for estimated project costs. We know it's construction. If it's, these kinds of projects, the estimates are, they're your best estimate. We understand that these can change, but we would like to see sort of what your budget is. And it's broken down into acquisition. So what are your land costs? What are your equipment costs, if that's relevant? Any infrastructure that you're going to require. We have it broken down into rehab or renovation and new construction. So what the building cost is going to be, whether it's renovation or new construction. And then we ask for your soft costs, and we kind of give you some examples of those. But usually soft costs that are considered A&E, architect and engineer fees, any kind of finance, legal, construction interest, could be the cost of a construction manager, but those are the kinds of things that we're looking for in this Appendix 1 for construction projects. Again, we want to know what your sources of funding are because typically construction projects are going to be more significant. They can be millions of dollars. So we really want to understand what your other sources and uses of funds are. So, equity. So are you putting any money into the project yourself? Or do you have loans? If you do, who are they from? What are they for? If you've been anything syndicated, if you're relying on grants or there's some other kind of resource. So we really want to understand those sources of funding, and they should add up to what your uses are as well. So we want to understand too where you are in the process of getting those commitments. And we understand that it takes a while and you may have things outstanding. You may have multiple grant applications out there. Let us know what's committed and what's still pending. Or you may be waiting on tax credits, for example. That's another possibility, but just let us know where things stand. And then we give you sort of a last sort of a cleanup question. Is there anything that you want to explain or any additional information that you think would be really helpful for the port to understand about your project and and the costs and where you are in that process? So just a little bit of an opportunity to give you to clarify any of the comments that anything you've stated in the appendix. So you can say, we've heard from, we have a loan application outstanding. We've been told we'll be here by such and such a date. We'll let you know. That's the kind of thing that's helpful for the port to understand. Yes, the PowerPoint should be available on the website. I know it's going to be recorded, so I can ask Megan if the PowerPoint, Megan, is the PowerPoint itself available or is just the presentation?
I can make the PowerPoint available if you just share me a link to it.
Okay. All right. We'll do that. All right. So we'll make that available as well. Then Appendix 2, again, Appendix 2 is only if you're seeking programmatic funding. We ask you again, the name of the applicant, what the name of the project is, how much you're asking for the Port Authority, and your total project budget. Unlike the capital project, we ask you for a budget, but we don't have it spelled out in the application. So we're asking you to prepare and attach a budget that shows the sources and uses of funds for the program that you're seeking funding for. And it should include the note, and you should note on that what the anticipated use of port funds would be. So if you're planning on doing a program and some of your funding is going to be coming from one grant for your staff, but you only got 50% and you need the other 50%, indicate that that port funding would be used for staffing support. We'd like to understand whether these are new or expanded services and what the services will be. If it's relevant, to break down the services by service area. So if it's multiple aspects of a program, if there's multiple services that are going to be provided, let us know what those are. If you are hiring new staff, please identify what the positions would be and describe what the anticipated duties of the new staff will be. How many part-time staff and how many full-time staff will be hired. We also want to understand if it's outside consultants. So sometimes you'll be doing something under contract rather than adding to your staff. Let us know that as well.
The Port Authority, as we've indicated several times, makes grants to entities throughout St. Louis County, and that's anywhere. Even though the projects we're going to show are mostly in North County, it's primarily because they represent a certain area of focus from a priority standpoint that we wanted to highlight. But we do grants all over St. Louis County as long as you are an eligible entity in a eligible area. The first project that I'm going to talk about, this is one that the Port Authority funded in 2024. This is a building that is being, the grant application came from the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis. They are in the process of constructing a building known as Urban League Plaza, which is in Delwood, Missouri. This particular project is bringing new commercial services along with a small business incubator in a key commercial corridor in North St. Louis County. I'm sure most of you will remember the unrest that occurred there after the death of a young man in the city of Ferguson. However, a lot of those activities flowed over into the city of Delwood. This is a facility that they're locating there that's replacing two businesses that were destroyed during that unrest. This one basically falls into the area what we call business retention and expansion because of the incubator that's there. And then they have some other spaces for other entrepreneurs to locate there. There will be a First Bank in there. There will be a restaurant. So it's also providing services to the community. The building's about 17,000 square feet that's being currently being constructed. The next project that I'll mention briefly is North County Inc. This one too, the first project that we funded for them was in 2024, and that was for a pilot program for a small business navigator program. This was directed to help small business to navigate all the business support resources throughout the region, excuse me, and connect them with services and opportunities that are tailored to their needs. So what they were doing is basically working with small businesses, identifying those gaps in the resources that they had and connecting them with those gaps to assist them to move forward. This is under entrepreneurship and innovation. And then after the pilot program in 2024, and there were successes associated with it, they came back to the Port Authority in 2025, and they were giving an additional grant to fully implement this program. And this program covers all of St. Louis County. And the last one that I'll mention is this was a planning activity that was done in the Spanish Lake area at their community development court. Basically had done a plan for the Spanish Lake Town Center, and they had a need to do some community engagement, some additional feasibility planning about development of that hub in that Bella Fountain corridor in North County. We were particularly interested in this one because of its proximity to Wildcare Park, that new development that's also being developed in Spanish Lake, and trying to connect additional community resources to that opportunity that's being developed there that would help to sustain and grow the community that's up there. And this is under neighborhood economic and community development. So for final thoughts, there are there are frequently asked questions. There is a 3-page document that's also available on the webpage. We advise you take a look at that. It may answer a lot of the questions that you may have. But if there is not an answer here that fits what your concern is, please feel free to call Beth. Her email is noted here. It's also on the website. And once again, the deadline, as we said, we would prefer that all applications be submitted online through the portal that will be set up for this. And they can be submitted through that portal up to 11:59 p.m. on August the 11th. But if you have to drop it off, a hard copy in person, it has to be in the office by 3:30 p.m. on August the 11th, 2026. So once again, we thank you all for participating in this little seminar that we have here. And we have a few minutes for a couple more questions if anyone has any. Okay. So if you have any questions, either put them in the chat or
You can talk.
you can talk. Well, I didn't know if you could do that because
I don't know. I think they can, maybe not. You may have to put them in the
So you
chat.
have to take the PowerPoint down so we can see everybody,
Oh, yeah.
I think.
All right. Let's see if we can get everybody.
There we go. Yeah.
It looks to me like everybody's probably got their questions answered. Or if they don't have them, you can always follow up with me. We really appreciate your time and attention, and we look forward to seeing your applications.
Mhm.
Thank
And
you.
just one thing, if you know of anyone who didn't participate in this information session, we will be repeating it tomorrow on the 30th at 10
o'clock.
a.m.
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow.
Yeah, and this will be this recording will also be available. All right.
Okay. Well, thank you all. We look forward to getting applications from you.